Good evening, and welcome once again to the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly, and tonight we're going to talk about the film that I saw today, which is Green Lantern. So, not to be confused with the Green Hornet, because that movie sucked ass. If you haven't seen it, please don't. But anyway, Green Lantern. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention to the professional reviews out there, they've been really bad. It has a, for those of you who also follow Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 25% rate, which is not good. Considering that films like Thor and, for some reason, X-Men First Class have like 85% and higher. So only 25% of the reviews released were good reviews, were positive reviews about this film, which would indicate that's probably why it has projected about a $57 million opening as opposed to something that should be much higher for a film of this size, this scope. But it's, not a lot of people were really had a lot of expectation for this film. I mean, the three big summer films it appears that people were looking forward to, the four, maybe five that people are looking forward to are, or that have already been released are like, Hangover Part 2, obviously, Harry Potter, the final Harry Potter film, Pirates of the Caribbean 4, Transformers 3, and Cars 2. You notice how all of those films are sequels? Well, so, Green Lantern. Let's get down to it. Now, for those of you who really don't know the plot of Green Lantern, let me just break it down to you like this. Okay, so you got cocky test pilot Hal Jordan. He is on Earth doing his cocky thing. Meanwhile, in the galaxy, screw it, I'm not going to run it down for you. I'm going to assume that since you're watching me, you probably already know something about comic books. Which means that you know something about this film. Basically, a young man gets, a cosmically powered ring and fights evil. That's, the long and the short of it, really. And that young man, Hal Jordan, is played by Ryan Reynolds, an actor that I've liked for a long time now. Pretty much comedic work, because most of his work has been comedic, with the exception of the recently released Buried, which, if you have the chance to see, I highly recommend it. But I don't know if I'd see it more than once, and that's just because of the disturbing nature of the film. It's very, very, very intense, but he's really, really excellent in it as a dramatic actor. So he can do both. Let me just say that Ryan Reynolds plays the shit out of Hal Jordan. I mean, he owns that character. He's, he is cocky. He is, a dick sometimes. But, he's still, he's still amusing. He's still a good protagonist, strong protagonist. As far as other members of the cast, you've got Hector Hammond, played by Peter Sarsgaard, who's a great actor. He's really kind of channeling Jeff Goldblum in The Fly in this film, as he kind of further goes off the deep end. Never really sold on, I shouldn't say that. The fact that he's a telepath and that he's he's telekinetic, the telepathy part is never really sold, but the TK stuff is pretty cool. And a particularly awesome sequence. Uh, it's just you got Blake Lively, who is, she, she was better than Katie Holmes was in Batman Begins. I know that's not saying a lot, but still, and a lot more attractive to boot. I could watch her, you know, pretty easily. Uh, then you've got obviously, Mark Strong also owning the shit out of Sinestro. I mean, he really made that role. I don't know. Mark Strong has been kind of the go-to bad guy in casting for the last couple of years. From films like, him first appearing in the Robert Downey Jr. version of Sherlock Holmes, to Kick-Ass, to Robin Hood, and now this. He's a good guy. But he just does a really great job with that character. And it's peppered with character act what I guess are now character actors like Tim Robbins and J.O. Sanders and Angela Bassett playing Amanda Waller, which I thought was kind of a short-souled role, but whatever. And you got some really good voice work for Kilowog and Tomare, respectively. Kilowog voiced by Michael Clark Duncan, really, really good stuff. And I love the casting of Jeffrey Rush as the voice for Tomare. As far as the film itself is concerned, this is, again, I think the most common complaint of the reviewers is that it's not a film that you haven't seen before. And I think the bar has been raised so high for expectations from comic book films like The Dark Knight, and Sin City, and and other films of that type, where it does lean much towards the darker side. X-Men 2, Spider-Man 2, where it doesn't kind of capture the inherent kind of silliness of this character. I mean, it's a guy who has, a quote-unquote magic ring. And, he can do all, just through manifestation of willpower, he can create, from anything that he imagines. He can create these constructs. That was a real joy to see, a joy to watch the constructs being formed, and kind of Hal's take on the constructs, just from everything from kind of a wacky Hot Wheels type racetrack to obviously the giant boxing glove and everything like that. The film is adequately directed. It's Martin Campbell, who is a director that I do. He's kind of a hit or miss director. His big hits for me have been The Mask of Zorro, which is great entertainment. GoldenEye, which really, which reinvigorated the 007 franchise, the Bond franchise, and of course the reinvigoration that he did with Casino Royale. Those are three tremendous films, and he also did a really good job on doing Edge of Darkness with Mel Gibson, that just came out a couple years ago. So those are some really strong films, but he's also done some weaker films. This is a very adequate job. There are points where you're really not quite sure that he knows the best way to do things. There's some handheld stuff. There's some sweeping shots. It goes from small character film to very like kind of two-shot films to epic to again Steadicam handheld Bourne Identity stuff. Or I should say Bourne Supremacy, Bourne Ultimatum stuff, because there's very little handheld in the first film. Anyway, The script also is a little, there were four script writers, so when you get a script that's that, that has that many writing credits to it, sometimes it can go a little bit all over the place. The romance between Hal and Carol is, I would say, believable. I mean, it seems like they definitely have a thing for each other. They have good chemistry together. I didn't see anything bad there. The training scene on Oa is probably one of the big highlights of the film. That was just incredibly remarkable. I thought that was probably my biggest geek out moment of the film. The one of the things that has kind of left me cold lately with some of the comic book, the superhero films, I should say, is the final confrontation. It's kind of bland. They tend to be kind of bland. This one actually was really good. This had a really strong, kind of like final foe ending here. It had some new ideas that I thought were really interesting about the mythology of Green Lanterns, specifically regarding the yellow, the yellow power of fear. I thought the way that they handled that was really, really interesting. I don't know if Jeff Johns had actually thought of that, but it was, what they did with that I thought was really smart. Again, like I said, you've seen this film, but you haven't seen this film. That's not a reason that it's bad. I mean, there are only, I'm quoting Ed Brubaker here, there are only 5 plots in the world. So I mean, I think that people are tiring of the kind of, fun, a lot of people are saying this is kind of like a throwback to the 90s, superhero films, comic book films. There were some pretty good superhero films in the 90s. Unfortunately, they weren't like big characters. They were more smaller characters. But yeah, there is, there's a silliness factor in this film that I think that they acknowledge, and I think that that's good, because this, like I said, nothing has to be the consistently epic, lofty. I got that. I didn't get that feeling from Thor either, and I liked that. I liked that it was kind of cool and breezy and fun through, almost throughout. And this is a very similar film to that. I would say that this is, aside from, there's some creaky subplots and there's some creaky character moments, but, I can forgive that. The CGI looks great. I don't know why we were just bitching about that. The uniforms, because they're not suits, they're not costumes, they're uniforms because they're cops. Cops wear uniforms. They look terrific. I couldn't take my eyes off of it while it was on screen, so it was almost hard to concentrate on anything else because it really was and not distracting. It was just powerful. I just thought it was really well done. So I mean, overall, I would definitely give this an 8 out of 10. So this, or 4 out of 5, whichever you want to say. It's it's certainly not the greatest comic book film ever made. It's certainly, like Mark Miller put on Twitter, that it's the worst comic book film ever made. I think he's kind of an idiot for saying something that stupid. But, whatever. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. I have an opinion. I also have an asshole. Again, if you like this, you saw it, you saw the film, you like this review, you agree, disagree, whatever, comment, like it, dislike it, let me know. Let me know you're out there, people. Let me know you're listening or watching or whatever it is you're doing. So that's my take on Green Lantern. So we're going to see you next time. So until then, so long from the Shadow Gallery.